What if your greatest enemy is not the world outside, but the thoughts you let live inside your mind? Imagine standing in a palace of marble and gold, holding the weight of an empire on your shoulders. Legions await your command. Enemies press against your borders. A plague creeps silently through your cities. Senators whisper betrayal in dark corners. And yet, despite all of this, the fiercest battle is not out there. It is in here, inside the mind. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, did not write his meditations to inspire the world. He wrote them to survive the world. He wrote them as notes to himself, a soldier of the inner war. In those private writings, he confronted the same demon we face today: anxiety, the restless unease, the weight of what-ifs, the storm of endless thought that robs us of peace. Centuries later, our enemies look different. Deadlines instead of invasions, bills instead of battlefields, notifications instead of the roar of soldiers. But the struggle is the same. The mind spins. We imagine threats before they arrive. We magnify every challenge until it becomes unbearable. And like Marcus, we whisper in our hearts, "How do I endure this?" Marcus answered, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This was not the naive optimism of a philosopher who lived in comfort. It was the survival mantra of a man crushed by responsibility. Marcus knew what modern psychology confirms. Anxiety is not born from events themselves, but from our interpretation of them. The same storm can sink one ship, yet guide another to safe harbor. Think about your own life. How many times has your anxiety been less about the reality of a situation and more about the story your mind created around it? That meeting at work that feels like a judgment of your entire career. That silence from someone you love that spirals into fear of abandonment. That single failure that becomes a prophecy of doom. The Stoic lesson is sharp and liberating. Events are neutral. It is your judgment that gives them power. Marcus Aurelius urges us to see thoughts like passing clouds. Some are dark, some heavy, some harmless, but none of them define the sky itself. The mind is vast. Anxiety is temporary weather. So what do we do when the storm rages inside? We pause. We step back. We name the thought instead of fusing with it. Instead of saying, "I am doomed," we say, "I am having the thought that I am doomed." This small shift creates space. Space is power, and in that space, the storm begins to break. How much of your life is spent wrestling with what you cannot control? Anxiety often feels like a tightening grip. The more we struggle to control the world, the more it slips through our hands. Marcus Aurelius faced this tension daily. He commanded armies, signed decrees, bore the cries of his people. Yet he realized a truth that continues to slice through centuries of human suffering. Freedom comes not from mastering the world, but from mastering yourself. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." These words are not poetry. They are strategy. Marcus understood that the borders of Rome could shift. Fortunes could rise and fall. Even his closest allies could betray him. None of that was truly his to command. The only domain secure, the only empire unconquered, was his mind. Think of your own life. How much of your energy is consumed by things you cannot bend? The economy, the weather, what people say behind your back, whether someone loves you or not, whether your plans unfold smoothly or shatter without warning. The anxious mind reaches for control like a drowning man grasping at waves. But Marcus offers a lifeline. Distinguish what is yours from what is not. Epictetus, his Stoic predecessor, called this the dichotomy of control, to place responsibility only where it belongs. Here is the practice. Take a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle. On the left, write what is beyond your control, the opinions of others, the passing of time, the sudden turns of fortune. On the right, write what is within your control, your choices, your responses, your actions, your effort. This simple exercise is more than reflection. It is liberation. Anxiety thrives in the fog of confusion, when we blur the line between what belongs to us and what does not. Clarity shrinks fear. Marcus Aurelius knew this well. As plague spread across Rome, he could not halt its invisible march, but he could direct resources, care for his people, and rule with calm rather than panic. When armies pressed against his borders, he could not dictate the will of his enemies, but he could command his soldiers with discipline, inspire them with his presence, and embody steadiness in chaos. And what about us? We cannot stop the storm of life, but we can choose how we stand in the rain. We can choose our breath in traffic, our words in conflict, our courage in uncertainty. Surrender, then, is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is the art of laying down the impossible burden of controlling everything and carrying instead the noble weight of mastering ourselves. So the question lingers. How much of your anxiety would dissolve if you simply released what was never yours to hold? What kind of leader are you when the world collapses? It is easy to appear calm when life is gentle. Anyone can wear the mask of control when the waters are still. But leadership, true leadership, is tested in the storm. And few storms were greater than those Marcus Aurelius faced. He ruled Rome at a time when chaos seemed unrelenting. Invasions on the northern borders, famine and poverty at home, a plague that swept through the empire claiming thousands of lives each day. To many, Rome seemed cursed. And at the center of it all stood Marcus, not a general in the field alone, not a philosopher in the safety of study, but an emperor who had to be both, strategist and thinker, warrior and sage. Now imagine the anxiety of that weight. Every decision could mean life or death for thousands. Every delay could doom a province. And yet in the midst of it, Marcus wrote to himself, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." This was not detached arrogance, it was discipline. Marcus understood what modern psychology echoes. Anxiety under leadership is inevitable, but it need not be paralyzing. Instead, it can be forged into presence. Look at your own life. Leadership is not limited to emperors and CEOs. If you are a parent, you are a leader. If you guide a team, you are a leader. If others look to you in times of uncertainty, you are a leader. And with leadership comes anxiety, the pressure to provide, to protect, to decide. But Marcus's lesson is simple and sharp. Leadership under chaos requires composure, not control. People do not always need you to fix everything. They need you to embody stability, to remain the calm center while the storm rages. Consider how anxiety spreads. One fearful leader can infect an entire group with panic, but so too can calm spread. Steadiness is contagious. Marcus led not by pretending all was well, but by demonstrating that clarity of mind can coexist with chaos outside. So what does this mean for us? It means that in your next crisis, whether at work, at home, or within yourself, you ask, what do those around me need most? My panic or my presence? Marcus Aurelius carried the heaviest crown in the world, but his greatest leadership was not through force, it was through restraint. He bore the empire's suffering without allowing it to crush his spirit. He proved that composure is not a luxury of the privileged, but a duty of those who lead. And maybe that is the Stoic challenge for us today. Can you be the calm center, not only for yourself, but for others, when the world begins to tremble? What if the clock of life is the very cure to your fear? We spend much of life clinging to status, to possessions, to relationships, even to moments that cannot be held. And in that clinging, anxiety grows. The fear of losing what we cherish, the dread of endings, the silent panic that time is slipping away. Marcus Aurelius confronted this head-on. He did not shy away from death. He welcomed it as the sharpest teacher. In Meditations, he writes, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." For Marcus, death was not an enemy, but a compass. Every breath, every sunrise, Every fleeting conversation was framed by the knowledge that it could be the last. Rather than producing despair, this awareness produced urgency, perspective, gratitude, freedom. Think of how modern anxiety often disguises itself. We panic over small things. A critical email, a missed train, a harsh word. But when viewed against the backdrop of mortality, how small these worries become. Death is the great leveler. The noise of the world fades when we realize how short our time truly is. Imagine Marcus Aurelius in his tent on the battlefield, surrounded by maps and reports, his empire under threat. Did he know the outcome of tomorrow's war? No. Did he know if he would live to see another dawn? No. But in the face of that uncertainty, he turned inward, writing words to remind himself, life is brief. Live it with dignity. Live it with virtue. Do not waste it in fear. Modern psychology aligns with this ancient wisdom. Studies on mortality awareness show that when people face the reality of death, they often shift priorities. They value relationships more. They seek meaningful work. They savor the present moment. In other words, the shadow of death illuminates what truly matters. So how do we use this Stoic medicine for our own anxiety? We remember death, not to terrify ourselves, but to clarify ourselves. When panic rises, we whisper, one day, none of this will matter. So what matters now? This is not morbid, it is liberating. The recognition of mortality dissolves trivial fears. It reminds us that time wasted on worry is time we never get back. And it shifts our gaze from the shallow to the essential: virtue, love, contribution, presence. Marcus Aurelius faced the inevitability of death every day, yet his writings echo with strength, not despair. He teaches us that mortality is not a curse, but a cure for anxiety. For when you accept the end, you are free to live fully in the middle. So let me ask you, if you truly embrace the reality that you could leave life right now, what would you stop fearing? What would you start doing? If your name were to vanish tomorrow, what would remain of you? We spend so much of life chasing shadows, approval, recognition, the fleeting applause of strangers. And in this endless pursuit, anxiety thrives. What if we fail? What if they forget us? What if all our effort turns to dust? Marcus Aurelius, emperor of the known world, wrestled with the same questions. He ruled over legions, held absolute power, and yet in his meditations he reminds himself, fame is but smoke, reputation an illusion. Only this matters, to live with virtue in the present. This is where Marcus's wisdom cuts deepest. Even as the most powerful man alive, he knew that legacy is not built on wealth or monuments, but on character and duty. Titles fade, empires collapse, statues crumble. But the empire of the mind, the way we rule ourselves, endures beyond the noise. Think of the anxiety that comes from trying to please others, from comparing our lives to those on glowing screens, from fearing that we are not doing enough, not becoming enough, not leaving enough behind. Marcus calls us back to the center. Your duty is not to impress the world, but to serve it with clarity, virtue, and resilience. Consider this. In his writings, Marcus rarely boasts of victories or wealth. Instead, he speaks of patience, kindness, humility. He writes about the duty to act justly, to serve his people, to endure hardship with dignity. His legacy is not marble, but mindset, not palaces, but principles. And what does this mean for us, anxious in the modern age? It means we stop chasing what is beyond us, the approval of everyone, the security of perfect success, the illusion of immortality. Instead, we anchor ourselves to duty, to love our families well, to work with integrity, to live each day as if it were enough in itself. Anxiety loses its grip when we align with purpose, for the anxious mind spins endlessly. What will they think? What if I fail? What if I'm forgotten? But the Stoic answer is simple. None of that belongs to you. What belongs to you is the choice before you now, to live with honor, to act with courage, to give without fear of loss. Marcus Aurelius understood that he could not stop Rome from one day falling. He could not guarantee that history would remember his name, but he could ensure that while he lived, He ruled himself with strength. And in that inner empire, he found peace. So the question echoes across centuries. What empire are you building? One made of applause and anxiety? Or one carved in the only stone that endures, the empire of the mind? Anxiety has always walked beside humanity. From the marble halls of Rome to the glass towers of our modern world, the fear of tomorrow never leaves. But Marcus Aurelius showed us something timeless. That fear is not a prison, but a teacher. We have walked with him through the storm within, the discipline of control and surrender, the weight of leadership, the clarity of mortality, and the empire of the mind. And now the question remains, not for Marcus but for you. What will you do with this wisdom? Will you allow anxiety to rule you, or will you become its master? Will you spend your short time here chasing shadows, or will you live with virtue, clarity, and purpose? Remember, the world outside may rage, empires may fall, but the true empire, the only empire that endures, is the one you build within. So as you step back into your life, carry this with you. You could leave life right now. Let that truth not terrify you, but free you. If these words stirred something in you, join me on this journey of timeless wisdom. Like this video, share it with someone who needs strength, and subscribe to Timeless Stoic Mind, where we build the empire within, together.